All right, meteorologist John Dawson, ready to talk about hurricanes. I'm so excited to be able to visit with the National Hurricane Center Director Ken Graham. Thanks so much for taking some time today to visit with us here in Houston.
Oh, anytime. I'm glad we're getting ready. We're talking about this, so thanks for doing this interview.
Well, we can't start talking about this year without talking a little bit about last year because, well, in my opinion, it was just ridiculous. It was just the record-breaking season. I just needed you to give me a few thoughts on last year.
I think we're still recovering from 2020. The communities that got hit and everybody involved with it. And think about this: 30 named storms. The most we've ever recorded in 170 years of record keeping. Just absolutely just incredible. 11 landfalls. Just what a busy season all around. And I think if you look at that during a pandemic, everything we did was just more challenging. The steps that we had to take at the Hurricane Center to keep everybody safe. We were doing shift changes from the parking lot on telephones, and we had tape around hurricane specialists. Nobody was allowed to step in that zone. So we did everything we could here to keep safe so we can keep the public safe. What an incredibly busy season.
Tell me a little bit about just your concerns or your thoughts when we look at it. Wasn't just an active season for the entire Atlantic. It was very active here in the United States. So when they start hitting closer to home like that, just what are your thoughts on the vulnerability of our coastlines?
Yeah, look, you go back and look at the tracks from 2020. You hardly see any water left in over on the map in the Gulf of Mexico. It's just covered with tracks. I mean, the Gulf was incredibly busy. So what a reminder of seasons like that, where you can see so many landfalls and the impacts. I mean, I go back to Hurricane Laura, where you're talking about the wind, but you're also talking about a greater than 17-foot storm surge. I mean, you look at all the impacts. But one takeaway that I think about last season, they're all so different. I mean, you look at Hurricane Laura and the consistency of our forecast tracks, but then you go to a Marco that's interacting with Laura and the models, how difficult of a forecast that was, or a Sally that you had a center that was jumping around all over the place. And if you get a 10 or 20 mile jump in the center, that could mean a 40 or 50 mile change in where the system is going to eventually make landfall. So just a reminder, there's always uncertainty in these forecasts. So being ready, getting that information, not just 3 or 4 days ahead of time, but continuing to listen to those updates to that forecast is so critical.
Tell me a little bit, you touched on the forecast, obviously. Tell me something this year that you're excited about, whether it be new or different or upgraded, that would specifically help with the main job there, the forecast from the Hurricane Center.
Yeah, one of them is our big upgrade to the storm surge model. We're very excited about this one because storm surge historically is the leading cause of fatalities in these tropical systems. I think we're making a dent in lowering that. If you go back to 2017, from 2017 through 2020, we've had 14 landfalls and 7 fatalities with storm surge. So I think we're lowering these values. I think we're doing something there. But structure has so much to do with that storm surge. Of course, it's intensity. Of course, it's the speed, all of that. But we're going to have more structure of the actual hurricane going into the model. So 1, going to get a better storm surge forecast. And 2, we might be able to extend out the forecast further out in time, which really gives the emergency managers, gives the public more time to make those decisions and get out of harm's way. We're excited about that. And we'll be able to do it for storms we're real confident in.
Yeah, that would be great information to make that change of even a longer forecast cone or a longer forecast. One thing that's going to be different this year, now I certainly don't want to start running out of names. I certainly don't want to run out of names from our list, but I do realize that some changes were made in the off season and the Greek alphabet is out. So talk about that a little bit.
I'll tell you, 2020 and 2005 are the 2 years that we had to use the Greek alphabet. And going through that in 2020, there were some issues associated with using those names. Eta, Theta, A. You have all these ones that they're so close. When we got to Zeta, I was flooded with phone calls. People thought that was the end of the Greek alphabet, which it is not. So if you think about trying to translate that into different languages, at the Hurricane Center, we're part of a world meteorological organization. And if you think about it, 28 countries, we come together and we vote on these changes. So that means Spanish, Portuguese, French, and English. Some of those names were tough to translate. They really were. So it distracted from the message. We need to talk about the impacts and not really worry about what these names are. So we're not going to use it anymore. We voted. I'm the chair of the committee. We brought it to the committee, and everyone agreed. And now it's going to be a regular name list. It's going to be the same list that carries through the 6 years that we rotate the regular names. The overflow list will stay the same. It's going to be better. And once we run out of names, we're going to go back to A, but it's going to be something recognizable.
Okay. Good. Glad to hear the update on that. Also, when we're looking at changes, and I know the Hurricane Center doesn't put out the normals for a year. What's considered normal? That's the Climate Prediction Center, I think, or you can help me on that one. But what are you telling people when they hear that the new average is more than it was last year?
Yeah, I think about that. We use 12. We've used that for so long, and now we look at 14. The Climate Prediction Center looks at that. So yeah, every 10 years we redo that, and you look at the last 30 years so it's temperature. We do that for rainfall, but also the number of hurricanes, and it went up by 2 when it comes to the actual expected average of named storms. So the takeaway here is this: there's a couple of reasons for that. I mean, some of it could be some environmental changes that we're seeing some more, but there's not a huge correlation there. The other part is we're seeing more. We have Doppler radar on the aircraft. We have new satellite technology that we're able to dissect these storms better than we've ever been able to do in the past. So we're naming some of these borderline storms even more because there is an impact. So, but in the end, okay, whether it's 14, we don't want to have 30. We don't want to have 30 again. But if it's 30, 14, if there's one storm that impacts your area, it's a busy season. So whatever those numbers are, whatever the predictions are, it doesn't change the reality that we have to be ready no matter what.
I know our time's running a little short, and I'm about to ask you to talk about a pandemic, which is not really a short answer. But here in Houston, we have what my understanding is the largest public event for hurricane preparedness that we do every year. Of course, we had to cancel it last year. They're going to do a modified version of it this year. I just got the email on that yesterday. So tell me how the pandemic affects just preparedness in general.
We had to adapt. I mean, we did hurricanes at home, where we got into the classrooms in English and Spanish across the country and beyond. We reached thousands of school kids all across these areas. So we're doing all the training. We've already trained several thousand emergency managers this year, all virtual. And the event that you're talking about in Houston, later today, I'm doing the recorded intro to that event.
Awesome.
So we're doing the best we can with these. We're adapting. We're still going to have people ready.